everyone, my name is Bev, and today we're going through the fiction section of the New York Times 100 Most Notable Books of 2020. If you're anything like me, you at least want to know about what's hot, what's in, and if you're into fiction, then you have found yourself in the right place today. This is part 2 of a 2-part list review. I will link part 1 for you in the cards and in the description down below, so make sure to check that out if you're into nonfiction. Also, if nonfiction is not really your jam, check that video out anyway, because I do go into the comment section a little bit, which I thought was really fun. So this list is huge. I foolishly thought that I could get through it all in one video. Not so. And I think it's fun to peruse stuff like this with a buddy, so today I'm gonna be your buddy. I'll give you a little commentary. If I know anything about the book, I will share that with you. If I don't, I'll react to the blurb that New York Times has given me. Maybe I'll react to the cover. I'll let you know if any of these are gonna be added to my TBR. It should be a good time, so if you're into that, don't be shy. Go ahead and subscribe. Give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the list review. So this list is in alphabetical order by title, and since I went in alphabetical order last time on the nonfiction list, let's go from the bottom up. First up, we've got Writers and Lovers by Lily King. A former golf prodigy turned waiter and writer is lonely, broke, directionless, and grieving for her mother, who has died suddenly. King's hopeful novel follows this young woman's hardscrabble quest for solvency, peace, and passion. This book's already on my radar because I've seen other booktubers rave about this one this year. I mean, I haven't heard a bad thing about it. I also just finished The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, and that is about a chess prodigy. So if this is about a golf prodigy and maybe like the aftermath of her golf career, I think that could really scratch an itch. So if you liked The Queen's Gambit, maybe let's read Writers and Lovers together. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. Bennett's gorgeously written second novel, an ambitious meditation on race and identity, considers the divergent fates of twin sisters born in the Jim Crow South after one decides to pass for white. Bennett balances the literary demands of dynamic characterization with the historical and social realities of her subject matter. So I did read The Vanishing Half this year. Several years ago, I read Britt Bennett's first novel, The Mothers, and I loved The Mothers. I definitely knew that The Vanishing Half was going to be amazing, and it 100% was. The characters in the novel represent multiple generations of a family, and I really loved that, especially since one of my favorite books this year was Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. That is extremely generational. I mean, every single chapter is a new generation, so not quite as extreme as that, but it definitely did give you the sense of telling the story of a family and the effects of racism throughout the generations, and how much racial trauma really is multi-generational. I was really positively surprised to see transgender representation in this novel as well. If this one's not already on your TBR, I hope this convinced you to add it. I think it's wonderful. The Tunnel by A.B. Yehoshu. In this novel, Zvi Luria, a retired engineer in Tel Aviv, is in the early stages of dementia and takes a job in the desert to keep his mind sharp. The project involves building a road through an area where a Palestinian family lives, hiding out amid ancient ruins. Yehoshua masterfully entwines social commentary with a portrait of a mind in decline. The Tunnel is a translated work, and that really interests me. I definitely want to read more translations. And A Portrait of a Mind in Decline is also one of my kind of pet topics. I just finished House of Leaves, which was definitely about a mind in decline, and I really did enjoy those aspects of the story, so I think this could be really cool, a different way to tell that story. Tokyo Ueno Station by Yu Miri. Yu's glorious modernist novel is narrated by a voice from the dead, a construction worker doomed to haunt various landmarks near Tokyo's Ueno Park. Okay, I'm interested. There's not a lot to go on here, but the cover is beautiful. I love a translated work. Right before COVID hit at the beginning of this year, I had a whole trip to Japan planned. I was going to be there for a couple of weeks. I was so excited. I was literally flying out on April 1st. So I missed it by just a hair. I'll definitely reschedule someday, and you know what? Maybe I'll take you along and we'll go to some Japanese bookstores. Sisters by Daisy Johnson. Secluded in a dilapidated country house, their depressed mother in a room upstairs, the teenage siblings at the center of this hypnotically macabre novel mull a sinister deed from their past. Johnson expertly layers the gothic atmosphere with dread, grief, and guilt. Is this like a I know what you did last summer kind of situation? Yeah, I like a gothic atmosphere, why not? Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart. Young Shuggie grows up in 1980s Glasgow with a calamitous alcoholic mother and punishing reminders that his effeminate manner sets him apart from his peers. Pain, physical and emotional, is everywhere in this potent, sure-footed debut, which makes as strong a case as any for love's redemptive power. This one, I think, doesn't really do it for me. The only thing I really know about it was that it was longlisted for the Booker Prize. It's almost giving me like Billy Elliot vibes with an effeminate young child and a really bad home life, which now that I say that, I did love Billy Elliot. Something about this just isn't really speaking to me. I think For me to add it to my TBR, I need a little bit of an endorsement from somebody else that I know. So if you've read this one and you loved it, let me know. Sharks in the Time of Saviors by Kauai Strong Washburn. Washburn has no interest in the Hawaii of resorts and honeymoons. Characters in his singular debut novel live in a modern yet mystical version of the archipelago, one whose essence no conqueror can ever fully eradicate. Okay, this sounds really great. Some of the comments for this list were definitely annoyed that there wasn't any science fiction or fantasy on the list, and this does feel kind of like it could be fantastical. I mean, modern yet mystical version of Hawaii sounds super cool. Hawaii is one of my favorite places. I got married in Hawaii, and it sounds like this book is like not into that, which makes total sense. I really do respect that, and it interests me a lot. I'd love to read a novel from a native Hawaiian perspective, so I'll definitely be adding this one to my list. Sea Wife by Amity Gage. A husband and wife try to escape their problems by packing up their small children and taking to the open sea on a boat they barely know how to sail. Trouble follows, but not necessarily the kind you're expecting. Gage's novel gives readers plenty to discuss, including ethical dilemmas, complicated family dynamics, and the nature of forgiveness. This is interesting. When I was younger, I definitely played with the idea of living on a sailboat. I'm sure that's hilarious to anybody that knows me in real life. I've said it like a million times already on this channel that I am not an outdoorsy person. I don't do well in nature. So yeah, me on a boat full time definitely would not have been a good situation. But maybe that's actually the situation with this family as well. It says they barely know how to sail and trouble follows. I don't think I'll add this one to my list right away, but I'll tuck it into the back of my mind in case somebody recommends it in the future. Saint X by Alexis Scheichen. In 1995, on a nameless Caribbean island, the daughter of an American family goes missing. This debut novel is hypnotic, delivering acute social commentary on everything from class and race to familial bonds and community, and yet its web-like nature never confuses or fails to captivate. In my head, I jumped to Madeline McCann meets Fire Festival. I don't know if that's accurate at all to what this book is. I would love to read that book. Red Pill by Hari Kunzru. A fellowship at a study center in Germany turns sinister and sets a writer on a possibly paranoid quest to expose a political evil he believes is loose in the world. Kunzru's wonderfully weird novel traces a lineage from German Romanticism to National Socialism to the alt-right and is rich with insights on surveillance and power. This one is already on my TBR. I did see somebody else talk about it and it sounds fascinating. I think Red Pill and incel culture is so toxic and so interesting. I think it's so sad that we have failed so many people in our society that these kinds of communities are the only places where they can find acceptance. Yeah, this one's definitely on my list. Real Life by Brandon Taylor. In this stunning debut novel, a gay black graduate student from the South finds hope for some better or different life while he studies biochemistry in the haunted halls of a white academic space. As in the modernist novels of Woolf and Tolstoy cited throughout, the true action of Taylor's novel exists beneath the surface. This cover is beautiful. It was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. Yeah, what else do you really need? Monogamy by Sue Miller. A gregarious bookstore owner dies suddenly, leaving his widow, children, and ex-wife to make sense of the messy and colorful life they shared together. Sue Miller's engrossing novel is infused with generosity and the complicated kind of love readers will recognize from real life. This already sounds like it should be adapted to like an indie family drama for beard strokers, so it's probably really good. Missionaries by Phil Clay. The four converging narratives of this astounding novel, Clay's first after his National Book Award-winning story collection Redeployment, capture the complexities of Colombia's 5-decade war. Clay does not shy away from the thorny moral questions and psychological impacts of conflict, and the result is at once terrifying and thought-provoking. One of the nonfiction selections from part 1 was War. That book sounds very interesting. This sounds almost like the fiction version of what that was going to satisfy for me. I love a book with converging narratives. I think the first time that I was really exposed to that was when I watched Pulp Fiction when I was younger, and that movie is amazing, so maybe that's why I have a soft spot for that kind of storytelling. The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel. The final novel in Mantel's Wolf Hall trilogy returns to the terror of Henry VIII's court, where falls from grace are sudden and frequently fatal. For all its political and literary plotting, the book is most memorable for its portraiture, with Henry's secretary, Thomas Cromwell, as our master painter. Well, I'm definitely not going to read this if this is the end of a trilogy, but the trilogy sounds like it could actually be very interesting. I'll have to read a little bit more about the other two books to see if this is something that I'm interested in, but yeah, could be very cool. Minor Detail by Adania Shibli. This slim, haunting novel begins with the rape and murder of a Palestinian girl in 1949, then shifts to present-day Ramallah, where a young woman tries to piece together what happened. Shibli turns her astonishing command of sensory detail into a rich study of memory and violence. Oof, that sounds really heavy. That is important to know before you really get into a novel, whether you're getting into something that's really going to be super emotional and really hard to take on. I know that's what a lot of people have said about A Little Life. I added A Little Life to my collection a couple of months ago, but I haven't gotten around to reading it yet because I'm intimidated by how emotional it's supposed to be. The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. This unsparing, beautifully written novel takes as its subject the Vardø witch trials in 17th century Norway, which even the infamous hysteria in Salem, Massachusetts several decades later could not match when it came to brutality. For such a book to center on a cast of powerful women characters seems as appropriate to its historical context as it is to our time. I knew that witch hunts definitely happened in Europe prior to early colonial America, but being an American, those stories were never really told. All I'm familiar with is early colonial witchcraft trials. So I'm definitely interested. I am curious to know if The Mercies contains any actual witchcraft, like in a fantastical way. I think that that's always kind of a fun twist on these witchcraft stories. The alternative is just depressing misogyny. The Memory Monster by Yishai Sarid. This brilliant short novel serves as a brave, sharp-toothed brief against letting the past devour the present. Sarid tells the story of a tour guide to the Nazi death camps and how his mind begins to slowly unravel as his knowledge of the mechanics of genocide becomes an obsession. Memorial by Brian Washington. A sense of estrangement pervades this assured debut novel, which opens as a man flies to Osaka to care for his terminally ill father, leaving his visiting mother and his black boyfriend to keep each other company. One of the great themes of Memorial is the immense power parents wield over their children, even well into adulthood. More books taking place in Japan. I'm definitely interested. Man of My Time by Dalia Sofer. Sofer's second novel traces a man's path from baffled revolutionary in Iran to complicit actor in a ruthless regime sure he can undermine the system from inside. It is a masterclass in layering together a character who is essentially unforgivable but no less captivating. Ooh. I like an unforgivable character that you still root for. Love an antihero. Also, taking the system down from inside. This could be a really good one. Luster by Raven Lilani. The first novel, about a 23-year-old New Yorker who becomes entangled with a white suburban couple and their black daughter, feels like summer. Sentences like ice that crackle or melt into a languorous drip. Plot suddenly, wildly flying forward like a bike down a hill. Okay. I know this book was super hyped this summer. I did not get around to reading it yet, but this synopsis just did more for me than I think any other recommendation has so far. I'm very interested. It sounds like a really fast-paced novel with quite a bit to sink your teeth into. All right, I'm losing light. It's getting pretty cloudy today. Gonna turn on a lamp. Okay, that's better. Little Eyes by Samantha Schweblin. In this brilliantly creepy novel, surveillance takes the form of a toy-like, camera-equipped pet that becomes a global sensation. Owning one is like inviting a mute stranger into your home. Ooh. I did not expect that synopsis. That actually just gave me the creeps a little bit reading it. Yeah, this sounds really great. I just finished Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin, and I really liked that. I thought that it was kind of tough to get through as a novella because of the way that it was written, but I think that was absolutely intentional. It's supposed to give you the feeling of kind of being in a fever dream. So it definitely did that. But Little Eyes, wow. It didn't make me want to run out and read all of Samantha Schweblin's work, but the synopsis for Little Eyes, wow. Okay. Definitely gonna read this one. The King at the Edge of the World by Arthur Phillips. Intrigue and espionage fuel this delectable novel set during the twilight of the reign of Elizabeth I and featuring a Muslim Ottoman physician who is enlisted in the machinations surrounding the choice of the Queen's successor. Okay, I can get down with that. I don't really even know what to say, but for whatever reason, I really want to read this one. I think I might have a little bit of a monarchy itch that I'm trying to scratch. Kim Jeong, born 1982, by Cho Nam-ju. A sensation when it appeared in South Korea in 2016, this novel recounts in the dispassionate language of a case history the descent into madness of a young wife and mother, a Korean everywoman whose plight illuminates the effects of a sexist society. This could be really great. I don't know a lot about modern Korean society. I know that Korean pop culture is really big in the US now. It's not something that I've dipped my toe into, but I am interested, and I think having some societal context could be really important. Jack by Marilyn Robinson. This uplifting addition to Robinson's numinous Gilead series centers on an interracial romance in post-war St. Louis that was hinted at but not amplified in the 3 books that preceded it. The lovers, Jack and Della, find hope and truth in each other, even as the world conspires to keep them apart. This sounds like a lovely romance, but again, it is part of a series that I've never started before, so I'd love to hear more of a recommendation from somebody on this. Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor. This searing novel, the first in English by the Mexican Melchor, dazzles with fury and beauty. Inspired by the wave of gruesome femicides in her home state of Veracruz, years, the author transposes the violence directed at women to the register of fable. This is another novel that is sure to be incredibly brutal and bleak, which absolutely has its place, but maybe not this winter. How Much of These Hills is Gold by C. Pam Zhang. Zhang's mesmerizing tale of two Chinese-American siblings crossing the West during the gold rush with their father's corpse in tow unfolds in a landscape of desolation and struggle that recalls Steinbeck and Faulkner, and in a voice that is all her own. I'm definitely intrigued. I think there could be a lot of really, really wonderful stories about Chinese-American immigrants in the early West. You definitely don't see a lot of racial representation in Westerns. I would love to read this novel. Homeland Elegies by AKHTAR. The latest novel from AKHTAR is about the dream of national belonging that has receded for American Muslims in the years since 9/11. At once deeply personal and unreservedly political, the book often reads like a collection of essays illustrating the author's prismatic identity. Yeah, post 9/11 US continues to not be a safe place for American Muslims. This is definitely a story that I want to read, but the fact that this blurb says that it reads like a collection of essays tells me that this probably won't be my book. The essay collection, short story collection just isn't my thing. I've tried a few this year, been a little bit disappointed, so I feel like I've been burned. So I think I need to take a break from that format and revisit it again in the future. His Only Wife by Peace Adzomedi. This rich, rewarding debut novel follows a Ghanaian seamstress forced into an arranged marriage with a wealthy man she has never met on her journey of self-discovery. It wasn't easy, she declares, being the key to other people's happiness, their victory, and their vindication. This could be really great. This cover is beautiful, so fun. I've definitely seen it on many, many lists, so I know that this is kind of a hot book. I've seen a lot of my peers read this. I do have another African marriage story book on my list. It's Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. I haven't gotten to that one yet. I'd hate for something else on the same topic to jump its place in line, so I think I will stick to finishing that one first. But His Only Wife sounds great. Oh, I see, it's a Reese's book club pick, so maybe that's why I saw it on so many people's reading lists this year. Great endorsement. I think this is going to be a good one. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Shakespeare's son Hamnet died at 11, a few years before the playwright wrote Hamlet. O'Farrell's wondrous new novel is at once an unsparingly eloquent record of love and grief and a vivid imagining of how a child's death was transfigured into art. I'm not a huge Shakespeare person. I'm not into it, but let's just say it's not one of my top Jeopardy categories. There was actually a nonfiction book from part 1 that did have to do with Shakespeare. I think that one does interest me a little bit more, so I think I will hold off on Hamnet for now. The Glass Kingdom by Lawrence Osborne. An American woman is on the lam with a suitcase full of cash in Osborne's latest novel, which is set in a Bangkok rattled by monsoons and social unrest. As chaos grows, her refuge, a modern apartment complex, grows more prison-like. Osborne's command of mood keeps the reader's pulse racing. I love when my pulse is racing when I read a book. That's actually quite hard to do. I feel like even in a book that I find to be really exciting, it's not necessarily like giving me like fight or flight symptoms. It's not so hard for me to separate myself from the fact that I'm reading words on a page. But if the New York Times thinks that this is going to raise my heart rate, then maybe I need to check it out because I love that stuff. Everywhere You Don't Belong by Gabriel Bump. It's the rare book that can achieve an appropriate balance between heaviness and levity. This debut novel, a comically dark coming-of-age story about growing up on the south side of Chicago, pulls the feet off not just generously, but seemingly without effort. This could be great. I am definitely keeping my eye open for a humorous novel. This summer, my book club read Samantha Irby's Wow, No Thank You. It was very divisive. A lot of people did not like it. I didn't like it, but for reasons different from everybody else. A lot of the other gals in my book club didn't like it because they were not a fan of the humor. I, on the other hand, loved the humor. I thought it was great, but it didn't make me laugh out loud, so it could have been funnier. And I just did not like the essay collection format. I think maybe that is also why it didn't make me laugh. I think because I was struggling with the format is part of the reason why I didn't find it as funny as it could have been. Anyway, this doesn't sound like it's going to be a funny novel by any means. It's not comedy, but comically dark. That's definitely my thing. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in reading this one. Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. In the Japanese author's second novel, two cousins agree that they're aliens, abandoned at birth among humans. After the traumas of childhood, in adulthood, they seek to abandon society, aka the baby factory, altogether in favor of a moral vacuum. What? Immensely charming, strange, and heart-stomping. that could be cute. I've definitely seen this cover on a lot of different lists. People do seem to be reading this one. I think they're liking it. I'm intrigued, but I think I need to read a few more recommendations before I go for it. The Duke Who Didn't by Courtney Milan. By turns consciously tender and fiercely witty, this is an unalloyed charmer about Chloe Fong, a stubborn Chinese-British sauce maker, and Jeremy Yu, the half-Chinese Duke of Lansing, who's head over heels for her but can't seem to say so. We've got the steamy romance cover. Yeah, why not? Djinn Patrol on the Purple Line by Deepa ANAPPARA. This first novel by an Indian journalist probes the secrets of a big city shanty town as a 9-year-old boy tries to solve the mystery of a classmate's disappearance. ANAPPARA impressively inhabits the inner worlds of children lost to their families and of others who escape by a thread. A 9-year-old boy trying to solve a mystery? That alone sounds like a very charming novel, but definitely very sad. Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwake Emezi. This steamroller of a story about coming of age and coming out in Nigeria centers on what a family doesn't see, or doesn't want to see, and whether that blindness contributes to a son's death. This one I checked out as an ebook from the library, and I didn't get around to finishing it before my loan ended. Does that ever happen to you? You just like have a ton of holds and then they all become available. You can't say no. You think you're gonna be ambitious and read a ton, and it just doesn't happen. I know I'm not alone. The Death of Jesus by J.M. Coetzee. With the pared-down quality of a fable, the final novel in Coetzee's Jesus trilogy makes a case for the fantastical worldview of Don Quixote. Young David enters an orphanage, finds followers, and imparts wisdom before falling terminally ill. A Christ figure, sure, but not one with easy or predictable parallels. Another book in a series that I haven't read. There are a lot of these on this list. Deacon King Kong by James McBride. At the center of this raucous novel by National Book Award-winning author of The Good Lord Bird are a hard-drinking church deacon and a sudden, inexplicable act of violence. But that's just one strand of McBride's tour de force, a book resounding with madcap characters and sly commentary on race, crime, and inequality. I have heard so many good things about this book, but nobody has really said that it is full of madcap characters, which I love that. I love a full, colorful cast of characters. Cleanness by Garth Greenwell. Greenwell's narrator is a gay American teacher in Sofia, Bulgaria, who has a series of encounters that are sexually frank and psychologically complicated. The book achieves an unusual depth of accuracy about both physical activity and emotional undercurrent. I don't know, the blurb and the cover together are just not really doing anything for me. A Children's Bible by Lydia Millett. This superb novel begins as a generational comedy. A pack of kids and their middle-aged parents coexist in a summer share, and turn steadily darker as climate collapse and societal breakdown encroach. But Millett's light touch never falters. In this time of great upheaval, she implies, our foundational myths take on new meaning and hope. I'm definitely down to read a good novel that is a cautionary tale against climate collapse. A Burning by Megha Majumdar. A brazen act of terrorism in an Indian metropolis sets the plot of this propulsive debut novel in motion, and lands an innocent young bystander in jail. With impressive assurance and insight, Majumdar unfolds a timely story about the ways power is wielded to manipulate and crush the powerless. I've heard quite mixed things about this novel. I think people really went into it and felt like their expectations of what they were going to read were way off, but there were just as many reviews that were incredibly positive, so I'm definitely going to be adding this one to my list, but I want to make real sure I know what I'm getting into, so then that way I've got a better chance of really enjoying it. Breasts and Eggs by Mieko Kawakami. In supple and casual prose, the celebrated Japanese novelist follows sisters in Osaka who are considering breast augmentation and sperm donation, causing 2 generations of women to reckon with the realities of their physical bodies and the pressures put on them by society. I'm a little bit over a traditional feminist tale. I think it really needs to have something more interesting to bring to the table for me. The fact that this is a Japanese perspective definitely gives it that, so it's a solid maybe for me. The Boy in the Field by Margot Livesey. In Livesey's exquisite new novel, 3 siblings on their way home from school find a boy who has been attacked and left for dead in a field. This discovery leads to a mystery that will change the lives of all involved. This sounds like a pretty straightforward mystery, and actually, I'm very interested in that. There's no shortage of those on my TBR, so maybe I shouldn't add another one. But yeah, it's not a no. Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. In this gritty thriller set in rural Virginia, Beauregard Bug Montage, the owner of a struggling auto shop, is drifting back into his old life of crime. Cosby has a talent for well-tuned action, raising our heart rates, and filling our nostrils with odors of gunsmoke and burned rubber. Here's another book where the New York Times is trying to convince me it's going to get my heart pumping. Okay, we've almost made it. We are down to the last 3. Beheld by Tara Shea Nesbitt. In this plain-spoken and lovingly detailed historical novel, the story of the Mayflower Pilgrims and Plymouth Colony is refracted through the prism of female characters. Despite the novel's quietness of telling, its currency is the human capacity for cruelty and subjugation of pretty much everyone by pretty much everyone. This cover is beautiful. I think that alone would definitely catch my eye in a bookstore, but a plain-spoken novel that doesn't shy away from the dark side of colonial America, sign me up. The Beauty of Your Face by Sahar Mustafa. In the Chicago suburbs, a gunman opens fire at a school for Palestinian girls. Mustafa rewinds from the shooting to the principal's childhood as a newly arrived immigrant. Here is a story of outsiders coming together in surprising and uplifting ways. I'm a little afraid to read a book about a school shooting. I feel like that would definitely take my anxiety through the roof in a way that is not enjoyable. The Aosawa Murders by Riku Onda. Onda's strange, engrossing novel, patched together from scraps of interviews, letters, newspaper articles, and the like, explores the sweltering day that 17 members of the Aosawa family died after drinking poisoned sake and soda. A strange and engrossing murder mystery novel. I'm definitely interested in this, but again, would love to see another recommendation. So if you've read this or if you know of somebody that's read it, point me in their direction. I want to know a little bit more. All right, we did it. We made it through the entire list of 100 notable books from 2020, according to the New York Times. Was this list missing something? If there was a book that came out this year that you were really expecting to see on this list but didn't make the cut, let me know in the comments below. I really want to know what else is out there. I know there's not only 100 books that came out this year that are worth reading. There are many, many more. So many amazing novels coming out all of the time. Definitely also let me know if there are other books from this list that you're going to be adding to your TBR. See if we can read some of them together. Okay, I appreciate you so much for being here. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.